Hey guys, before the episode starts, we forgot to mention that Pat got an arm for his mic, so it's like right in front of his mouth now, so his audio should sound a lot better. Unfortunately, in like the first, I want to say 15 minutes, maybe the first 10 minutes of the episode, his audio is very weird. But after the first 15 minutes, we figured out the problem, and the rest of the episode is recorded just fine. It sounds great. So just bear with the first 15 minutes. Very sorry about that. You might need to lower the volume for a bit because he's kind of loud. I didn't tell Pat this, so he's gonna figure this out when he listens to the episode when it comes out. Gotcha. Little message for you. But the audio's fixed, so don't worry about it. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the 15th episode of Fresh Off the Reel. My name is Lib.
My name is The One.
Do you have any powers?
No, I don't have any powers at all.
Well, then you're not the one. I'm sorry to break it to
Hey,
you.
listen, I have a leather jacket. I have shades. That's all you need to be the one.
Oh, you know what? You're right, because we'll talk about it later, because today we're talking about The Matrix Resurrections, the newest addition to the Matrix anthology, whatever you want to call it.
It's not a trilogy anymore.
Yeah, I was about to call it a trilogy, but it never was, because the Animatrix is canon.
It's canon, but it's not about Neo. Like, it's not. Neo has a trilogy, then the Animatrix is just like a bunch of side stories that take place in the Matrix
Yeah.
that have nothing to do with anything. So, it's the Matrix trilogy plus one. But now it's plus two.
Yeah, that was +2. And full disclosure, I've only seen the first one, and the first time I watched it was like a week ago. So I only have this and the first one. I haven't seen Reloaded or what's the other one? Revolutions? Yeah, I haven't seen Reloaded or Revolutions, which I recently found out came out the same. They both came out in the same year. How did that happen?
They filmed both back to back, I'd imagine. I don't really know. I didn't even know that, honestly.
They both came out in 2003.
They would have had to film them back to back, I guess.
Cause like wow, that is efficient. Too bad I've heard Reloaded is one of the worst movies ever created.
I wouldn't go that far, but I don't like Reloaded. I don't think many people do.
The only thing I know about Reloaded is that there's a scene where there's a girl who eats a cake and the cake gives her an orgasm.
Does it not give you an orgasm?
Well, the cake is specifically coded to give you an orgasm.
No, but does cake not give you orgasms?
No, it does not.
Well then.
Well, anyways, we're gonna dive straight into it. So let's talk cinema. So, The Matrix Resurrections is a 2021 film directed by Lana Wachowski, who directed all the other Matrix films. I don't think she did the Animatrix.
No, the Animatrix is like a compilation of shorts that were done by different people.
She might have produced them, but probably not directed it
I don't think she's involved at all.
at all.
I don't think so. I'll check. I'll look into it while you talk. But
Yeah.
I don't think. Okay, they were both Wachowski sisters are involved. Okay,
Oh, okay. All right.
not directed though. They helped the writing, not the directing.
These were pretty much the only movies that Lana Wachowski is known for. She also did Cloud Atlas, apparently, but I've never seen it. It's got Tom Hanks in it, so I should probably watch it. He's my favorite actor. She also directed the Speed Racer movie.
AKA Cinema. She also did V for Vendetta. She didn't direct it, but she was involved with V for Vendetta.
Oh, she was a producer on V for Vendetta. Okay, cool. So we're going to read the plot synopsis. I should have checked the plot synopsis before we started recording because it is extremely short on Letterboxd.
I have the Google one up if you want to compare notes.
Is it also only 2 sentences long?
No, on Google it's a paragraph.
Okay, do it.
To find out if his reality is a physical or mental construct, Mr. Anderson, aka Neo, will have to choose to follow the White Rabbit once more. If he's learned anything, it's that choice, while an illusion is still the only way out or into the Matrix. Neo already knows what he has to do, but what he doesn't yet know is that the Matrix is stronger, more secure, and far more dangerous than ever before. That's it.
I don't. Is that the same movie? What?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's what happens.
I guess that's what
I
happened.
feel like like I guess like the meme, but because like this isn't like it's not Neo's decision. It's like Neo kind of gets roped into it by the original characters whose motivations I don't remember, and I watched this movie 2 days ago, so that's not good.
Right. Like, on Letterboxd, all it says is plagued by strange memories. Neo's life takes an unexpected turn when he finds himself back inside the Matrix. That's all it says.
That's also not technically right.
Oh, and the tagline is "Return to the Source."
I get that. Okay, that's a good tagline at least.
Yeah. Well, I gave it 3 stars.
I think I also gave it 3 stars.
I think we also watched it with Stefano, and he also gave it 3 stars. So it's yeah, it's pretty fine. Like
Yeah,
it's good. I like it.
I enjoyed it, but I think I definitely put it above two. I've been above three on my ranking, but it's not on the same tier as the first two, for reasons we're gonna get into in the episode. But there's one decision they made in this movie that I don't really agree with, and I think if it was anything other than the Matrix, I would have liked it less. But because of just the nature of how the Matrix is, I think like it's fine. I just don't like it. But we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So basically this movie's about it's kind of a hard reboot on Neo as a character and then the rest of the characters because this Morpheus is not in this movie. Well, it like okay, he's kind of in this movie. So there's this AI who thinks he's Morpheus. Is that what it is?
No, he just becomes the new Morpheus. Like in terms of like his role in the story, he just takes up the role of Morpheus.
Yeah, because something happened. Oh yeah, he died. The old Morpheus is dead, and now the new Morpheus is not human, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, the short version of like the setup to bringing Neo back in is basically these two new characters whose motivations are super unclear. Are like the Matrix bad? We need to break Neo out of like his dream life, and then he we have to save him and take him out of the Matrix, and then they're gonna do something. They don't really elaborate further, and we never get to see that because it's not what happens in the movie. It's really weird. The villain's motivation is also something that I just kind of like it's said and then it goes nowhere really, or like it's not really fleshed out. I think the villain's goal in this movie, so like earlier in the film, they talk about how Neo is dead, quote unquote. He hasn't been seen since presumably the events of the third movie. We don't know where he is, what he's doing, and he's the only one capable of stopping whatever this bad guy is doing, who's played by Neil Patrick Harris. But the bad guy's goal is just to keep Neo as like a pet, really.
Yeah,
Like it, like he doesn't have an end goal. It's just I'm gonna keep Neo as a pet so he can't stop me. But stop me from doing what? I don't know. Well, I guess like stop the Matrix. But again, that's not what happens in the end. So
yeah, you'd think the way they're setting everything up, at the end they destroy the Matrix altogether, because that's what their plan was to hit it at the source and then dismantle the Matrix. But that didn't happen. Maybe that's gonna happen in the other movie if there is gonna be. I don't expect another movie.
I think that was what the two new characters, the new Morpheus and the other character whose name I genuinely don't remember. I think their goal was we're gonna take down the Matrix, but then Neo reunites with Trinity, and then Neo's like, "Fuck it, I'm not. I'm just gonna live in the Matrix, but I'm gonna be God now," and that's basically how the movie ends. Like they don't really like stop the Matrix. They defeat Neil Patrick Harris, I guess, but like he doesn't really have an end goal, and then Neo doesn't really follow along with the new character's end goal, and they just kind of fuck off with Trinity. It's weird. This is a weird movie in terms of like story. But outside of its original plot details, it's literally a remake of the first movie.
Yeah, it's a Force Awakens type thing where they just use the exact same story but change the characters. But at this time they didn't even change the characters very much. They used the same characters, just they all have different goals now.
Neo doesn't even have goals. Like Trinity, Trinity's goal is to just get answers, right? And in the end, she gets those answers. Neo's just along for the ride, and it's really weird when you consider how like built up he is earlier in the movie. Like again, the two new characters like treat him like this prophet. He's the one. He's the only one with these powers, and he's the only one capable of stopping the Matrix. But he really is just kind of there. Like you can't do a Matrix movie without Keanu Reeves, and like like Lib said, this is a Force Awakens kind of like sequel. So it would have been weird for them to do something like this story without Keanu Reeves. But it's weird to say that you can kind of take him out or replace him with a different character. As far as the story is concerned, nothing really changes. Like the antagonist wants to keep him there because he's the one, but beyond that, there isn't really a plan. The antagonist gets involved because he's Keanu's therapist, right? So he's hearing about all these stories from the Matrix that Neo thinks he made up, but they feel real, and that's where like the antagonist is getting all this info basically. But I feel like aside from being an exposition dump for the antagonist, Neo doesn't really serve a purpose. It's weird. Yeah, it's a weird movie, but yeah, I think The Force Awakens is a good comparison.
Because they did the exact same thing.
And like that's not to say it's bad, because like we both gave it threes, sixes, so like it's an average reboot sequel, but I don't know if this is what I wanted from a Matrix Four, and I especially didn't want to like didn't want what I was talking about like earlier really vaguely was this movie takes the let's make a meta jokes about what's going on approach to telling jokes or making comedy, where like they know what they're doing. Let's just tell really meta jokes like, haha, this is the Matrix 4, it's a cash grab, we know. But like it's kind of insulting to the viewer when it's like the only kind of joke they go for throughout the entire runtime. Like even the after credits scene is just a tongue in cheek. This is a cash grab sequel joke.
So what Neil's been doing, like after the events of the three movies, so he's back in the Matrix and everything. He's been a game developer, and he made three games, and the games are just everything that happened in the first three movies as he remembers them. Because he does remember them, but he thinks he made that up. He doesn't think that's what actually happened because he lost all his memory like of the Matrix. So he just made these games and they became super popular, and then they're like, let's make a fourth game. It's been so long, but we should do it. And then there's this like focus group that they hire, and all they do is make jokes about either sequels are good or sequels suck, and then they're like, let's reboot the whole thing, and it's just a big meta joke about how this movie's just a cash grab.
Yeah, there's like a joke during the focus group, like, oh, this is a Matrix sequel game. We need to have the bullet time segment,
You gotta have
like
bullet time.
and like that's how they treat the bullet time sequence in this movie as well, is they're like checking things off a list, and they think because they're making jokes about it because they're self-aware it's fine, but it does kind of get annoying 2.5 hours in, like when the movie's over. I'm not laughing at these meta tongue-in-cheek, we know what we're doing, haha, we're self-aware kind of jokes. And I was like saying earlier, like really vaguely, it does work for a setting like the Matrix, but I think they go too far with it. I think it's too much in this one, and they could have toned it down just a smidge.
The jokes didn't land at all for me. Like I laughed more at the stupid stuff. Like I remember when we were watching it, we were just making fun of all the, oh, there's bullet time. Where's the bullet time? When's he gonna say I know kung fu? Every single line that's memorable from the first movie is said again in this movie, and all the other ones. Like, the same rule applies.
I don't want to start the year off shilling Spider-Man No Way Home again, but I feel like if they were gonna take that approach where they're just gonna make tongue-in-cheek references to the old movies instead of writing original jokes. I think No Way Home did that better, like with like the rainy memes, right? Like, oh, I'm something of a scientist myself. It's clearly just a reference for the fans, just like how Oh I Know Kung Fu is a reference for the fans here. But I think unlike No Way Home, where No Way Home does do like some original things, it tries to tell original jokes, it has original dialogue. I think this movie is too focused on callbacks that it kind of falls flat in the originality department. It falls flat on being its own unique product. Because at the end of the day, this is The Matrix 4. So, like, it's a sequel. They expect you've seen the old ones. Callbacks are fine, they're normal, it's part of the process, right? But these movies still need to stand out on their own. They just can't exist as like jokes about old properties. This movie should be more than a sequel to The Matrix. It should be its own film that can be watched and enjoyed. And I feel like if you only casually like The Matrix or have never seen a Matrix movie and for whatever reason are watching this, all these references are gonna go over your head and then there's nothing else to enjoy. Whereas like the references should be supplementary to the actual movie itself, if that makes sense, right?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like I get what you're trying to say, because this movie also it's been what 17 years since the last movie. It was 2003. I said so 2003. I don't know math, but something like that. So this is made for a completely different audience. The people who are watching The Matrix Reloaded were already like 20 years old, so now they're in like their late 30s watching this, right? If they were 20 years old watching it then. So I imagine most people watching this are people who are younger and like they're new to the series and they haven't like been watching it since 99 when the first movie came out. So these jokes don't really work because this is tailored for a different audience, a different viewership than the other movies were because they all came out in like the same 5 years. So the references would work. If this was like more of its own thing, maybe if it was tied directly to the old trilogy instead of having to completely reboot the entire thing, if this was its own thing and it had its own semblance, maybe even not put Neo in it, maybe like have a new character. It's just a new or like don't bring back Trinity, don't bring back Neo. You could bring back Morpheus because he's like the missing link. You can have I would watch a story that takes place in the Matrix universe that doesn't involve Neo or Trinity because now Trinity is also the one at the end. That's what happens at the end of this movie, which is not
Yeah,
explained.
and I agree. I think I would love to see a Matrix movie with completely original characters, but I also don't think they need to like they can bring back characters. And for as much shit as I give the Star Wars sequel trilogy, certain characters aside, I think some of the returning casts from the original trilogy are like fine. Like they're woven into the story better than like Neo and Trinity are here. If Neo and Trinity are meant to be the main characters again, that's fine. But I wish they would explore new avenues instead of just rehashing the old story. And if you're gonna rehash an old story, I hope it's more than just tongue-in-cheek references, right? I want like actually tell a story. This feels like the like Lana Wachowski sitting you down and be like, "Hey, you like the Matrix, right? Well, here's the Matrix again.
Yeah,
But we're gonna make jokes about it." And a lot of the jokes don't land. The experience kind of falls flat because it's so reliant on these meta self-aware jokes, and then the lack of doing anything original of note just kind of makes this not as enjoyable as that first movie. It doesn't help that it's like 2.5 hours long.
yeah. This
So
this
like
movie's also really long.
if you're not vibing with the jokes and you're not vibing with these characters and their little to no motivation for anything, it's a slog. And like there's a lot of original characters in this movie. They just don't do anything. There's this whole subplot about this team of anti-Matrix rebellion team or whatever. Like they have a name in the movie, I just don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Their goal is to break Neo out. We're gonna bait Neo by telling him we're also gonna get Trinity out, and then we're gonna destroy the Matrix. And there's so many characters, and they have a lot of dialogue. It's not like they're just there. They're not shoved aside. They're pretty like foot forward in the whole story. It's just in the end they get nothing because like nothing happens. The Matrix is still up and running. They stopped Neil Patrick Harris, but like Neo and Trinity just take his place as God or whatever of the Matrix, and then the movie ends the same way the first movie ends with them flying. Maybe this could lead into like a Matrix 5 where that team of rebels are trying to take down Neo and Trinity, and maybe they become the villains. I think that would be cool. But I don't exactly get malicious intent from them either. Their whole shtick at the end is we're just gonna live in the Matrix with no bad guy. We're just gonna let people live, and I don't know if that's what they should have gone for, or if that's what I wanted. But that's what we got. It's just really weird.
You know what I was hoping this movie would be? I was hoping this would be like they get the entire human population, everyone that's still alive, to figure out they're in the Matrix and everything, and then they like form an alliance, make an army, and then fight the robots. You know, like I was expecting a big, large scale war between humans and robots. I don't understand how that hasn't happened yet in the Matrix movies. Maybe that's what, if this is the start of a new trilogy, maybe that's what the last movie in the trilogy would be. And if it is, then and it happened, I called it. Okay? That was me. I called it.
But I feel like that's the direction they're going for. Like they have this team of rebels, and that's their plan. Is they want to free humanity and take down the machines. It's just like there has to be other movies coming. I don't know if anything's been confirmed at the time of recording. It might have, and I just wasn't made aware of it. But it's just weird.
Like
Like what story was this trying to tell?
the first movie was trying to set that up for the sequels. We're gonna save humanity and then fight back to save our planet, to save Earth. But that doesn't happen in any of the movies. In all of the movies, and even in the Animatrix, all of it takes place in the Matrix. Nothing ever happens in the real world. Nothing ever happens.
I genuinely think just the real world just doesn't matter anymore at this stage. It's just like, are you gonna be a sheeple, which is a thing they say in this movie, or
Yeah,
are
they
you
do.
gonna or are you gonna be free? But like that freedom doesn't really mean anything when you're still in the Matrix at the end of the day. Like in the end, Trinity and Neo are free, quote unquote free. They have free will. They can do whatever they want, but they're still stuck in the Matrix. They just don't want to leave anymore. Like that's
Yeah.
it, right? And now, what about all the other humans? What about the team of rebels? Like we never find out. Not in this movie. Maybe in a Matrix 5 or 6. If it's just like I genuinely believe this movie only exists to cash in on the Matrix being a 30-year-old franchise, and let's just milk it and let's just make jokes.
It has to be, right? Like, because another thing is when I think the Matrix, I think of the special effects, and even in the first one, they still hold up today. Like, I still think they look really good, especially on that. You know that scene in the lobby of the hotel near the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene looks so good, and some of that's practical, by the way. A lot of it's practical.
I still think the bullet time sequence in the first movie trumps like the iconic bullet time sequences. There's more than one. Looks better than anything this movie does. Like even the callbacks to cool moments come off as soulless and come off as bland. It's such a weird movie to talk about.
So what I was trying to say was, for me to make it a good Matrix movie, and more importantly a modern Matrix movie, is you need to have generation defining special effects, because that's what the first movie was all about. When that movie came out, it blew everybody's minds, and people still talk about how, like, especially if you're in film school, you're definitely going to talk about how the Matrix revolutionized VFX in movies. But this movie's visual effects are nothing stunning, and not even just to say I was expecting to be mind blown, because I wasn't. It just was bland. There wasn't a lot. It was done very lazily. I feel like Dune had better special effects than this movie had. Rise of Skywalker had better special effects than this, and that came out 3 years ago. And yeah, I know I'm putting it up against Dunes and Star Wars and other big budget movies, like, but this movie had a huge budget. This is one of the biggest sci-fi franchises ever made. So yeah, I'm gonna compare it to the other bigger sci-fi franchises, and those are having better special effects now, even after. Again, not a video game podcast. This happens a lot, it seems. But uh, so there's a new game engine that Epic Games is making called Unreal Engine 5. You know, the upgrade to their Unreal Engine 4, which was already amazing. And there was an Unreal Engine 5 demo called The Matrix Awakens that was
Yeah,
on the Series X and the PS5, and I played it, and I'm telling you, that is the future of video games. That looks amazing. It looks like a movie, and they're like Keanu Reeves shows up and he starts talking, and then he reveals that that's not him. That's an animation mocap of him. It looks real. It straight up looks real. Like he's in the forgot what it's called. The Construct. He's in the Construct, and he's talking about how the first movie, revolutionized CGI and VFX, and how like the Unreal Engine 5 is trying to do the same thing. And of course this game, well, more of a tech demo, was only made for two reasons: to advertise Unreal Engine 5 and to advertise this movie, The Matrix Resurrections. And after watching that, I was expecting a lot from The Matrix Resurrections CGI, but it just didn't deliver. But the bird thing that was in the movie looked pretty good. All the robots always looked good in The Matrix. The rest was weird.
like the stuff in the real world looks fine, but all the inside the Matrix, I'm gonna call it anime bullshit. like like the superpowers, right?
Oh
They
yeah,
they all don't look good. The way they interact with other characters and the environment doesn't look good. I might be also because of Keanu Reeves getting older, but there's so many things they could have done that if they wanted to call back to the original, they could have, that would have standed out more. But instead, Keanu just like forces everything. Like, you just, we're gonna use the force to stop bullets. We're gonna push you back with Fusroda. We're gonna like I don't, nothing stands out.
it's a very average movie, and like I just noticed this right now. I'm looking at it right now. On Letterboxd, it has an average rating of 3 flat, 3.0. That that means more than that means at least 99% of people say it's a 3, right?
Yeah, it's an average movie. It truly is average. And it sucks because I loved the first movie, and I wanted to love this one. I wanted to jump back into this franchise and be like pulled in like I was back in the day as a kid. And like we've been talking about this, like I've been talking about wanting to watch this movie for a long time,
Yeah.
and I've talked a little about it both on the podcast and off camera. And like this is the first podcast episode, I think, where after having watched the movie, because this is one of many at this point that we watched specifically for the podcast, right?
Right.
This is one that I wasn't looking forward to talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry if the energy wasn't as like as much in this episode, because I mean, it's not that I'm forcing myself to talk about it, because I do want to talk about this movie. It's just the whole day today, like I was at work this morning, and like the whole day I was like, I'm gonna have to talk about the Matrix Resurrection later, and I really don't want to.
Yeah, same. Before watching the movie, I was excited to watch and talk about it. I didn't really want to see this in theaters. Like I was really excited to watch this movie.
Yeah, I would have wanted to watch this in theaters too, but I think if I would have been even more disappointed, because then I would have expected an outstanding theater experience.
Yeah, just like we watched this movie together. We watched it together a couple days ago, and after finishing the movie, I just wasn't excited to talk about it anymore. And then like all day today, like we were like we planned to record this today, and I was just not looking forward to it, and it's weird because I didn't want to feel this way about this movie or any movie, right? If I'm gonna talk about this movie for an hour or whatever, I want to be excited.
Yeah,
When I talk about, and that's not to say this movie's bad, because we both also gave it average scores. It's just there isn't much to say. There's nothing I want to say.
you know what? Hold on, like, because we've been talking all about the negative stuff. Let's talk about the good stuff because there's good stuff in this movie. There is.
I think the performances overall, both the returning characters and the new ones are pretty solid.
Yeah, I like. But okay. I know I just said we're gonna go to the good stuff. Like I just fucking said it, but okay. Out of the entire cast, the weakest performance, in my opinion, is Keanu Reeves. For some reason, I think it might just be him getting older, or maybe he's getting too popular, and I'm starting to look at him differently. But as the years have gone on, I think his acting has noticeably dropped. Like the quality of his acting has noticeably dropped. In John Wick, it's really good. Like even in John Wick 3, like John Wick 3 I think is maybe like one of his best portrayals. And in the first Matrix, he was just playing a normal dude. But in this movie, I didn't really I wasn't sold on his performance very much.
And I like him in everything I've seen him in over the past like couple years. I think he's great in the John
Including
Wick show.
Cyberpunk.
I think he's great in Cyberpunk. I actually think he's great in Cyberpunk.
Honestly, like I think Cyberpunk is his best performance in anything, really.
It's this movie feels phoned in. Uh,
Really.
it, it it feels like he came back because he was asked to, and he's just a nice guy who won't say no. And obviously, he was paid a shit ton of money, so there's definitely the there's definitely the money aspect of it, right? But like this one more than any other movie I've seen him in, and even more than any other reboot, sequel, remake of a classic IP, this feels really phoned in, and that's saying something because like Harrison Ford, like tries to not try, and that felt more like his performance in like The Force Awakens felt more genuine than Neo does here.
The best part of The Rise of Skywalker was when he came back to talk to Ben and they used reused footage.
Like Neo is supposed to be a stoic. I don't want to say badass, but like just a stoic, calm person. And Keanu Reeves isn't known for overacting. He plays very stoic badasses like in everything he's in. John Wick is just a stoic badass. Johnny Silverhand. He plays himself in movies, maybe a little quieter, maybe a little more serious, but he doesn't play out there roles. But this movie, more than anything else he's been in, just felt even more subdued than usual.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say he was boring in this, but I did say earlier that you could replace him, and I wouldn't like. So I guess I am saying he was boring here.
You know what's the weirdest part of this movie? When they just straight up name dropped Warner Brothers, that just felt weird. It felt weird. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, let's go back to the positive stuff. Let's talk about the positive stuff. Everyone else's performance is great. I do like the new Morpheus. I like how like he stands out. Because the old Morpheus, he just, he wore black and like robes and leather stuff just like everyone else. But here he's the only one that's wearing color besides Neil Patrick Harris, but he's the villain. He's the only one that's wearing like color. His new outfit is like a teal with like a red suit, like a teal shirt. I actually I like it.
His personality also stands out a lot more than the rest of the cast.
By the way, that's a Yaha Abdul Mateen. I think I said that right. He's Candyman.
That's I think that's the only thing I've seen him in.
He's Black Manta and Aquaman.
Did I watch? I did watch Aquaman.
What do you mean? Did
I
you
don't
watch
remember.
Aquaman?
I did watch Aquaman. I just don't remember
He's
Aquaman.
Black Manta and Aquaman. Yeah. Oh, and he's W.D. Wheeler in The Greatest Showman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have nothing to say. Like this movie's so weird. Like I want to like it more, and I want to be able to say like this is my second favorite Matrix movie, but I'll never be able to. And maybe that's not what Lana Wachowski was going for. maybe she was trying to make what we're describing just another Matrix movie, and that's fine. Because
Yeah.
in that regard, they delivered. This is another Matrix movie, and it's not another bad Matrix
Yeah,
movie.
and you know what? Like what we said with what movie was it? Well, with Elf, because like we were reading into it and we're like, this movie sucks. But this is like with the Matrix Resurrections. If you turn your brain off as a fan of the Matrix, you're probably gonna like it. Like there's a lot of callbacks. Everyone likes callbacks. The action sequences are actually really good. Like the fight choreography is pretty good in this. And the first I was super confused when we were watching the first 30 minutes, like you know, before Neo's introduced to the new team, you know. But everything before that, that whole mystery element and everything, I've said this on a podcast before. I love being confused. I fucking love being confused, and I was so confused that the first 30 minutes of this movie are great.
Yeah,
It's
and it
really good.
fits. It fits the tone for the Matrix too, right? We're like the characters in the movie, we don't really know what's going on. I think that works well. I just wish they did more with it.
I wish the whole movie was brain fucky, like the first 30 minutes. Oh, I love movies like that.
Yeah, and I think they should have gone all the way with that. Like we were watching it with Steph, and Steph pointed out little things like whenever there's a reflection of Neo, there's an old man, because that's how Neo actually looks. Except not really, because we see him in the real world. But like that's how Neo really looks
In the Matrix.
in the Matrix. But because it's the Matrix, he looks like Keanu Reeves still. But in real life, he looks like Keanu Reeves. Like it's like fucky things like that. I think are cool little touches that make the Matrix unique.
Yeah, and the name of the cafe is Simulate. So that's
Yeah,
another thing. So if you want to look at it like that, then those weird callbacks kind of work. But they're not in but without that, like cuz the weird callbacks happen after the brain fucky stuff is over. So it doesn't work anymore. But if there were callbacks like during the brain fucky part, I'm gonna keep calling it the brain fucky part. That's
I want to stress. I want to stress. Like I've been complaining a lot, but I don't think callbacks are bad. Callbacks exist for a reason. They serve a purpose and they work. At the end of the day, callbacks work. They get the audience reaction they want every
yeah.
time.
Watch our episode on No Way Home for more for elaboration on that.
Yeah, callbacks work, but I think callbacks need to be woven into a story well. They can't just be callbacks for the sake of having a callback. They need to do or say something new or interesting with that callback. And this movie doesn't. This one just makes callbacks for the sake of having them. And I think that can be insulting to the audience. Even like hardcore fans.
Look, how to do a good callback happened in this movie when after like Neo like was done fighting all the people in that like abandoned building, he said, "I still know kung fu." That worked. That works.
Yeah. That works as a callback, that works as a joke.
But you know what doesn't work as a callback? When a character comes up and he's like, somehow Palpatine returned. That is not a good callback. Star Wars. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like we've been really negative this review. But I want to stress that I didn't dislike this movie. I thought it was fine. I just this movie had so much more potential that like I can't help but feel the same way I feel about like the sequel trilogy.
Right.
Well, like man, this could have been great. I want to be hopeful. Maybe we're getting a Matrix 5 and 6. Maybe those will expand on ideas brought up here. But as far as this movie on its own is concerned, I just don't have much to say, unfortunately, which upsets me more than you'd think because I was super excited to talk about this before seeing the movie.
It's tough, but I guess that's where we're gonna have to leave it off. It's really unsatisfying, I know, but I mean, that's just that was the whole feel of the movie. It's unsatisfying.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah,
I wasn't satisfied watching this movie.
it's good,
I
but
didn't
it's
I didn't hate
unsatisfying.
it. It's fine. If you're a fan of the original, I'd recommend watching it just to get that fix. But it is a little unsatisfying considering this is like the Matrix 4,
Yeah, so
you know.
the big thing to take away from this is that The Matrix Resurrections is good, but it's unsatisfying.
Yep.
And with that, I guess we're going to move on to Hot Off the Presses. This is the segment where we talk about Hollywood news, things that happened in the weeks that we didn't actually have a Hot Off the Presses last week. So 2 weeks that we missed out. So we're starting with some pretty tragic news, actually. So, like, we're gonna get this one said right away. Everyone already knows this, but we had two celebrity deaths in the last few weeks. Betty White died on December 31st, 2021. Of course, you will know Betty White from The Golden Girls and multiple cameos in almost every sitcom ever made. She, she was hilarious, and she was like like genuinely hilarious person. This is a big loss. She's older than the Queen. She's older than the Queen. Like that's crazy.
Her goal was to hit 100 years old, and she made it just shy of like 3 weeks. She would have turned 100, so it's really really unfortunate.
And then shortly after, on January 9th, 2022, Bob Saget, who you will know from Full House and on top of that, Fuller House, and again, cameos, also passed away. I don't know a lot about Bob Saget, to be honest with you, but I think Pat knows a bit more.
Yeah, I grew up watching Full House. Those two deaths were big losses for the family sitcoms from like that era, like the 80s and 70s and 80s. It was really sad.
It's a real shame. It's a real shame. Um, we haven't talked about a death on the podcast in a while, which is a good thing. But it sucks that the one we're talking about now that hasn't happened in like 6 or 7 episodes. It's such a hard hitter. Such a hard hitter. It's really sad.
Death is never easy, but these ones are big ones.
Condolences to the family and of Betty White and Bob Saget, of course. So, another kind of sad news, but definitely not as sad as the first one. So, Morbius got delayed to April 2022. It seems like it's never gonna come out.
It's like its fourth delay. I think it was supposed to come out like next week originally. Got a couple month delay, not much, but this movie has been delayed 4 times I think at this point or more. So it is not lucky for this one.
It was delayed more than Venom 2 was, and Venom 2 was delayed a few times. So, yep,
A couple days ago, at the time of recording, we got our first official look at Moon Knight in the Disney Plus show. The costume leaked a couple months back, but now we have an official from Disney, from the team, look at the costume, and it looks pretty damn great.
it looks
Um, I
great and it
love
looks amazing.
I love the white eyes. I love the clothly look to it. It just looks like a damn good comic book suit. I hope this show's good. I'm really excited, but we'll have to see if it's on par with Daredevil or not when that comes out.
Well, nothing will ever be on par with Daredevil. I guess that's kind of news. I started watching Daredevil a few weeks ago. It's good.
It's a real good.
It's real good. So moving on, we got a trailer for a Bob's Burgers movie. I don't know if this is supposed to act like a series finale or something. It just looks like a Bob's Burgers movie. I actually really enjoyed the early seasons of Bob's Burgers, like the first 4 seasons. But like other, animated adult shows, it falls off as the series goes on. I think now it's not as funny as it used to be, but it's still one of the better animated adult animated shows. And this just looks like it's going to be an hour long episode of Bob's Burgers, and it looks really good too. I just watched a trailer like today, so so yeah, I'm kind of excited for that.
I have not watched Bob's Burgers, and I have nothing to say.
Well, you'll have nothing to say about this next one too, because the Book of Boba Fett has released since the last time we did Hot Off the Presses to mixed reception, including from me. I watched the first 2 episodes. I haven't seen the latest one, but I hear the latest one has gotten a lot of veteran fans very angry.
Yeah, I'm a big Star Wars fan. Have not started it yet. Based on what I've heard, might not watch it at all. So we'll see.
Like the first episode was very slow. The second episode was actually pretty good, but I hear the third one is actual trash.
It's exciting. I have not watched it. I've been told to stay away by one of our buddies in our personal life. But we'll see. Maybe when it ends, I'll binge it.
Yeah, we'll see
We'll
when it
have to wait.
ends.
In other release news, we have two. We have Eternals releasing on Disney Plus. Finally, I watched it. I didn't like it. Fun fact: scrapped episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy we scrapped it.
Yeah, Scream 4 has I think released last week or this week. It's supposed to come out, but it's started getting some screenings. It's apparently pretty good. I might go watch it because I like the first Scream. I haven't seen the other three, but the first one's great.
I haven't seen any of the Scream movies.
I would recommend you watch the first one because it's pretty great. And if you like the first one, you can watch the other ones maybe.
We'll see. My mom loves them. My mom loves horror, so we'll see.
Scream is like I'm not a horror guy, but Scream is pretty fantastic.
Another release news yesterday at the day we're recording this. So on, I can give you the exact date, on January 15th, Hotel Transylvania 4, Hotel Transylvania 4, which is called Transformania, came out. And it's on Amazon Prime Video. You could watch it right now if you want to, but I would highly recommend not, because I watched it and it's fucking atrocious. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen. It's not funny, and the animation is actually terrible. I don't know how this movie got made. And you know how Adam Sandler plays Dracula in all the other movies? They didn't get him to come back. You know who plays Dracula in this one? An Adam Sandler impersonator named Brian Hull. Have you heard of him? No, because
Nope.
no one has.
I don't think I've seen the third one, but I like the first two enough. I might go back to this at some point. Because I was looking forward to seeing it. I thought this was supposed to get a theatrical release. I didn't know it was releasing on Amazon.
No, it was an Amazon Prime original.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, I watched it while I was at work. It's pretty short. It's only 88 minutes.
That's not even feature length.
No, it's not. Hotel Transylvania Transformania. Why don't you transform these nuts? That's how I feel about this fucking movie.
Nice. Someone's angry.
It's because I genuinely like the first one. Like it's good. And then
This is Lib's Minions. Anyway, our last one for hot off the presses, big one for me, because directors of Across the Spider-Verse confirmed that each dimension will have its own unique art style. We got like a test trailer a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month.
yeah, that we talked about.
It's called Across the Spider-Verse. They confirmed that Miles is going to be traveling to different universes this time. The director said that each universe is going to be unique art style, which is super cool because Japanese Spider-Man is supposed to be in it. So I'm finally going to get anime in my Spider-Man movie.
Well, that's
We
not
did
confirmed.
it, Weebs. We did it, Weebs. We won.
That's not confirmed.
It's confirmed. His logo is in the teaser.
Well, what if it's just a red spider with a yellow background?
I am Charlie Day with my conspiracy theory board. Right now. Confirmed.
Well, that concludes Hot Off the Presses, which means we're moving on to our final segment, Backlogged. This is the segment where we recommend each other movies to talk about in the next episode. You know, just trying to clear out all the movies that we haven't seen. Last week, well, 2 weeks ago, actually, because last week we didn't do a proper backlog segment. 2 weeks ago, Pat recommended me Kingsman: The Secret Service. And on top of that, also last week, we were recommended by our guest Stefano to watch Green Knight. We haven't done that yet, but if we like, and then we'll probably also give it its own episode because apparently it's really good.
Yep, it might be getting an episode down the line. You'll have to wait and see.
But you know what else is really good? Kingsman: The Secret Service.
It is.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of an Edgar Wright movie. It had the same little quirks like an Edgar Wright movie. Like a lot of the lines are said again in a different context to mean something else. The music in the movie is diegetic, which means the characters some of the music, which means the characters are actually hearing this music, but that's only some of it, not all of it. And the music that's not diegetic, like there's parts where the music is synced with what's happening on screen. The writing is really good. The jokes land. The acting is amazing. It's a pretty good little like super spy movie.
I thought it was weird, like Lib being such a big Bond fan that he never watched this. But yeah, this movie's great. I love Colin Firth in this. This was my first Taron Egerton movie. I hadn't seen him in anything before now. Sam Jackson is great. This movie, Michael Caine is great. Like this movie has a great cast. It's got a really good story. I got to see this in theaters when it came out, and it was just such a fun time. And it's a shame the second one doesn't continue this, but I hope the King's Man is a little better.
Yeah, we still haven't seen the King's Man, and there is a new Kingsman coming out called The Blue Blood. There's no release date, but we know it's happening, and we know Colin Firth and Taron Egerton are going to be in it. But there isn't even a confirmed director for that one yet. We don't know if it's going to be Matthew Vaughn.
If you like spy movies, if you like comedies, if you like movies that have one of the best one-shot action sequences I've ever seen, you'll like this movie because it's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's genuine. Like it was surprising. I gave it 4 stars.
I think I also have about 4 stars or like 4.5. It's really good. I cannot recommend this movie enough. The Bond fan in me was very pleased. Again, it was always weird to me because Lib and I had talked about this movie before, well, about how he hasn't seen it, and him being such a huge Bond fan, I always thought it was strange. So I had to recommend it to him, and now that's done. And now he'll watch the second one and hate me because it's bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch the second one soon, and when the King's Man comes out on home release, I'm gonna watch that. That's just like, at the beginning of this movie, we get like a little scene of what the Kingsmen were like during World War I, I think, and that's what the King's Man is about. So we're gonna get to see some of that. But now it's time for me to recommend at a movie.
I'm very excited. I hope he doesn't recommend me trash.
Pat, I'm about to recommend you something that I believe you will give 5 stars.
Interesting.
So, Pat,
That's me.
let's talk lawyers.
Do you know a really good lawyer?
I know a really good lawyer. Do you know a really good lawyer?
I do know a really good lawyer.
Yeah, so you know Matt Murdock. Well, this has nothing to do with him. This is not even a Marvel movie. In fact, this predates Marvel, I think. Yes, this
Oh,
this
okay.
predates Marvel. When was Marvel a thing?
Well, the MCU is 2008.
No, 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 but like Marvel Comics.
Oh,
Was
like the
the
60s.
60s? Okay, yeah, this
Or
predates
like the
Marvel.
50s. Or like the 50s. I don't remember when Marvel started.
I can't remember if it's the 40s. I thought it was the 40s. Okay. Okay, whatever. This movie predates the 60s. Let's just say that. This is
1939.
okay. This does not predate Marvel, but this is the oldest movie I have ever seen. It's also one of the best movies I've ever seen, and it is unanimously decided as like to be one of the best movies ever made. It's a little black and white film called 12 Angry Men.
Oh yeah, sure. I know this movie.
I know you know this movie. And the way I got introduced to this movie was there was a Family Guy episode about it, and I was like, wow, this is a really good episode of Family Guy. And then I found out that it was based on a movie called 12 Angry Men. Then I watched 12 Angry Men, and now I love it. So,
I'm sure I love it. I've heard about this movie for a very, very long time. This movie is talked about and referenced all everywhere. I just never sat down and watched it. So I'm excited.
so yeah, it's in black and white. This is going to be the oldest movie that we would have talked about on the podcast to this date. Maybe we'll talk about an older movie one day, but this is my favorite old movie. It's my favorite black and white movie. I hear there's a project that's like being done right now to colorize this movie. and I can't wait to see what that looks like when that's done. Only a couple scenes, like the more popular scenes, have been colorized. You can find them on YouTube, but the entire movie has not been colorized. But people are going frame by frame, painting over the frames to colorize this movie. It's a big effort. I wish I could like figure out like the names of the people that are doing this so I can, we could promote that and people can like, check it out when it's done. But I'm sure that when the colorized version of this movie comes out, then we're going to talk about it. But yeah, 12 Angry Men, can't I hope you enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to watching it. When we talk about 12 Angry Men in that episode, we'll be talking about another movie. You wanna tell our audience what movie that is? Because it's a movie we've been talking about for a long time.
It's a movie we have been teasing for a while, okay? And it's finally we're finally doing it. So, a while ago we were talking about James Bond a lot, and then we keep talking about James Bond ever since the beginning of this podcast. We talked about James Bond today. So, you know what? It's finally time to wrap the present, tie the knot, and talk about the last James Bond movie that might ever be made, No Time to Die.
Next week is finally time to die.
And we'll see who dies. I think I will.
But you'll have to see who dies in a theater near you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh wait, I forgot to thank you everybody so much for listening. If you like this episode, you should check out the other ones. You can find all of our stuff on Linktree. That's linktr.ee/fresh_off_the_real. There you will also find our Letterboxd account so you could keep up to what movies we're watching, and you might even get podcast spoilers because we log the movies pretty often. And in that link tree, you'll also find a form that you could fill out to recommend us a movie or TV show, and then we'll take that recommendation, we'll watch it, and then you might even get that recommendation to become an episode. So if you want to influence the podcast, check it out. But now, we'll see you in a theater near you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, for real this time.